We're welcoming on our guest tonight, David Rutz from Free Beacon. He's the video editor over at Free Beacon, and he is the one that's been putting together those hilarious videos of Al Sharpton and then the Harry Reid one. And obviously, me and Beckett talk about it all the time that we love Free Beacon, so we're glad to have somebody else come on from that website. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Beckett, you want to start off? Maybe I wanted to start off with Iraq, what's going on in that situation, because it's really crazy right now.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about following Mr. Rutz on Twitter is that aside from making these mashups that everybody seems to enjoy so much, we're also fairly opinionated on the going-ons of the world. So if we could start off with Iraq, I mean, what were your initial thoughts on that? Just before I hopped on the metro this afternoon, the president announced that they will, in fact, be sending boots on the ground, about 275 troops, to deal with some of the stuff that's going on over there. What are your thoughts on that? Where do you see that headed?
Well, I'm glad to hear that development. I think too often the administration is they're so committed to fulfilling promises and, just kind of maintaining their narrative of we've won Iraq, we've won this, we've won that. They kind of like to declare victory before things have obviously been won. We've seen that over and over in so many topics. So I'm glad to hear that. I thought it was astonishing that the president seemed to show so much passivity when Iraq was literally like melting down for the past few days. But so I think that's good news. I think we need to do more than that to assist those forces. I guess the thing I worry about is, is it going to be enough? I guess I kind of leave it right there so far.
Well, that's the interesting question, of course, is that you say, we should do more, but the question is, after 10 years of handing the Iraqis, by most accounts, a pretty great opportunity to build something over there, and they have utterly failed for sectarian differences. What, aside from maybe sending a small band of troops over there, what else could we do differently, do you think?
That's the $1 million question. And, I thought the president actually made a good point on Friday. He said, Iraq is a sovereign country, and they do need to take care of their own problems. And I think it's really tempting for us over here to kind of, take that mindset that, why are we shedding blood and treasure to help these people when they're so ridiculously willing to help themselves because of their absolutely insane differences, and no one's willing to stand up to these completely extremist nutcases and stop them from overtaking power. Honestly, I know it seems like a cop-out, but it's hard to say exactly what is going to solve their problems so far. I guess I look at it as, I guess you guys might agree that the surge a few years ago really seemed to have worked. I think that these kind of, half-assed, if there's no word for it, half-assed efforts to kind of help out aren't really enough. I kind of wish we'd commit more, a lot of our stuff, because we are the greatest army in the world, and we can win something if we put our minds to it. And I guess we kind of just need to be more willing to fully commit to something to get it done. I guess that's the way I look at it. But what about you guys?
I think I would agree with that. It's funny because I was actually watching Lawrence of Arabia over the weekend, and it's the exact same issues of watching a Western power trying to. Well, it's true. It's the Western power trying to work with all these warring factions to help them build a country, and then eventually, in the end, if you've seen the movie, the main character T.E. Lawrence walks away and washes his hands because it's the differences between these tribes over there are so deep that no matter how much cash and outside influence you try to give them, can you actually do anything? Matt, what is your thoughts on that?
The Middle East is just, I guess, as you could say, a cluster. Well, fill in the blank there. It's just it's a mess. It's just a hot mess. You really can't. Look at all the times we've had peace talks and nothing ever works out. It's because you got to understand these people, the people that are at war right now, they've been at war with each other for thousands of years. They're not just going to all of a sudden, because some smooth-talking guy from Chicago is going to come in there and he's going to woo all of them. No, they have deep-rooted disdain for each other. And the problem is, we can't fix it with just going in there and talking, or, he thought that, I'm not of the whole mindset of let's send troops in everywhere. Obviously, I'm not into the war hawk thing, but me neither. But the biggest problem is that Obama came in thinking that he could just smooth talk his way into peace and lowering the waters, and that doesn't work. You have to be strong. You have to be. It's almost like any other job you would have, like in law enforcement. You have to be strong with the way in your positions, but you can't be overly forceful. But you got to sound like you're willing to do something, but not pull the trigger. It's just that balance. And I don't think he has that balance. I think we went from Bush, who had a little bit too much of a war hawk mindset, and we've gone all the way to the polar opposite to a guy who really doesn't want. I mean, it's easy drones and fine, but he's not as tough on it. So we don't have that middle ground where you have like the Reagan. We didn't go to war with Reagan because he had that perfect balance of being strong talker. They think that he would do something. I mean, they turned the hostages over right when he got inaugurated. I mean, we just need that, and that's something Obama lacks.
But I mean,
well, look at. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. I was just going to toss it right back to you.
What I was going to say was I agree with that. I just would look at Syria and look at Afghanistan. I think people get the sense with President Obama is that they can almost kind of wait him out. I mean, Syria, we all know about that shifting red line that kept moving back and back and back. And then we look at you look at the humanitarian disaster that's there. It's not on him that it's happening necessarily, but he does bear some responsibility for not backing up his word. And then you look at Afghanistan with this decision to pull out all these troops, and you kind of get the sense with Taliban and some of these other extremist forces that they just need to kind of wait out our president. You know, I mean, it's almost like, you know, like I said before, it's almost like he's so determined to fulfill his own promises or his own narrative of successful foreign policy that he can say, oh, look, I took the troops out, victory, declare victory, and that kind of thing. And I think Matt was just saying just now, it's almost like he needs to have more of a balancing act where you need to believe that Obama would be willing to put his money where his mouth is. And he showed that with Syria. He didn't, you know. He said, oh, yeah, we crossed a red line. That's a red line for me. That red line gets crossed. And he says, well, I didn't set a red line. And that's like, you know, I made a video about some of Obama's biggest falsehoods over the years, and that was one of the most obvious ones. I mean, I have it on tape. He said, that would be a red line for me. And then he says, quote, I didn't set a red line. The world set a red line. It's like ridiculous, you know?
Well, your videos are probably
no one's listening?
Your videos are racist. Let's be honest.
But the funny thing is that backtracking does raise a good point because
there's a lot going against Trump and Obama. I'll be the first 2 minutes.
I mean, the idea that we said earlier having the 275 troops may be a good step in helping quell some of the violence over there, but at the same time, that raises a bigger question about the president's his nods behind the throne, as it were. Why did he go on the record saying absolutely no boots on the ground? Why would you say that if that actually was a consideration, which, lo and behold, today they announced it actually is what they're going to do? Why? I mean, it seems like these unforced errors. What is going on over there?
Oh, is that to me?
Anyone who wants to answer it.
You go ahead, Dave.
You can go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, unforced errors, that's an excellent way of putting it. I guess that's what I would say, too. Yeah, you're right. You know, he said on Friday, he seemed pretty unequivocal about it. So, you know, I was watching the World Cup, obviously, just before. So this news about him sending in those troops before, go USA, by the way, that's news to me. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's funny. A few years ago, you would have thought, like, with Obama, like, that might have been one of the areas you might consider him, like, possibly a success in the foreign policy arena. And now, a few years later, it's like, can you think of a single thing that he's done where it's just like, we're better off? And I objectively cannot do so. I have no disdain for the man, like, personally. I mean, I want us to do well on the world stage, and I just can't think of anywhere where things have gotten better. And now with Iraq, which we thought wasn't going to be a problem anymore, and now it's like, I mean, every day on the news, you're just seeing more and more, like, horrific things. And then he's backing off things he said, like, 4 days ago. It's just like, it's a clown show over there right now. I mean, that really is unreal.
Yeah. Well, we know that you don't have disdain for the president. Now, Hillary may be another question, but we know that not for the president. No, but the thing, the issue that I have with Obama's foreign policy is his foreign policy is almost exactly like his domestic policy. He's feckless. You know, he wavers on everything. And like you said, he says one thing and then 2 days later he changes it. And then, because I think one of the reasons he does do this is because he honestly believes that because for the first couple of years, the media, covered for him, they're going to continue to cover for them. But I think you're seeing slowly, but not, I mean, you're not going to see it completely, but they're starting to bail on him because they're looking embarrassing and he's embarrassing them and making them look foolish.
Yeah, I mean, the bloom's off the rose, that's for sure. What do you think? I mean, honestly, like, I'm oversensitive to this. I still think the media, by and large, is covering for him. I mean, I love that. I don't know if you guys are going to talk about Bergdahl later, but you all saw that New York Times front page story that just, like, went after Bo Bergdahl's unit, right? I mean, that has to be one of the more. I mean, I know they do disgraceful stories all the time, but that was such an obvious attempt to cover the administration. I about gagged on my cereal when I was reading it.
No. That was
but to your point, the bloom is definitely off the rose.
I mean, again, there's only so much you can do to cover up or back up for him before you actually ruin your own organization. I think we're saying that, but we can move away from Iraq. Although I do want one final question on this point for both Matt and Dave, if you both can maybe take a turn answering this. We are in a situation. Somebody asked me the other day. So with Iraq, I can only see two options: either indefinite, we stay there indefinitely until we somehow change their culture into wanting to work together, or we leave now and people die. What options other than that are actually on the table that are realistic?
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I guess I don't think the option of doing nothing is really one that we could morally not even sensibly do. So as far as the indefinite stay, I guess it goes back to what y'all were talking about before in terms of these truly deep divides that are going on. Of course, we don't want to think about the fact that we'd have to stay there indefinitely, and then the fact that whenever we did leave, the country would just once again collapse. Another extremist group would mow down the security forces in a matter of days. I think it's just we need better diplomats. We need we need a stronger Secretary of State. We need stronger envoys to foster and just kind of show the people what kind of insanity they're living in, I suppose. I mean, I know it seems really not high and mighty, but pie in the sky dreaming, of course, because the country's, like you said, its history is just so besought with, bloodshed and extremism and hatred and whatnot. But I think we really just need to put our foot down in the peacemaking process. And that's really all I can say. I'm not a foreign policy expert, but that's what I would say to that.
I don't know if, what can we do? Like you said, they've been at this forever. And it's one of those situations where, we have troops that are still in Japan and Germany from World War II. I just didn't see how, I don't know how many, I'm not a military expert, I don't know. But keep security forces in there, you would think, just to make sure that we have some stability there, to say you're going to pull them all out, and then you pull them all out. And then this happens right away, goes to prove that everybody who said this was a bad idea, including the guy who ran for president last term, or last election, was right. And it collapsed and it blew up in Obama's face. And he's too much of a prideful person to admit, maybe we made a mistake. If he just walked out there and said, maybe we made a mistake, we're going to put some people on the ground, we're going to try to get security forces in there to help stabilize things, and then we'll go from there. Not set any set timetable. that may work.
Yeah, I would stop setting the timetable. I don't know what good they do other than give a anti-American public, a wait time. I don't see what good these dates and timetables do except help out our enemies. That's how I look at it.
They have got to stop doing that. All it does is announce when it'll be safe to attack again. That nonsense has got to go. But on a more domestic issue now, something I think we can actually figure out a solution to a lot easier. Let's talk about the IRS. Apparently doesn't understand how email works. Let's talk about that. Today, Josh Earnest, who is now replacing White House Press Secretary Jay Carney, said on Air Force One that the crash is totally believable. It's a fact that it happened, and anything else is a conspiracy theory. I'll start with you, Dave. Do you believe that the IRS irretrievably lost 2 years' worth of Lois Lerner's emails?
I don't. I know I'm quite alone in that. I know everyone else found that incredibly credible. I can't believe it. They're all just gone. No, I got quite a chuckle out of it. And, of course, it was even better was that was part of the Friday news dump. I thought that people were going to forget about that by Monday. No, it just really comes down to it. There was a very funny moment this morning. I was watching a lot of MSNBC at my job, and I was watching Morning Joe. And Joe Scarborough was just having a great time. He was twirling his laptop, and he was just seeing hey, look, I could throw this computer into the ocean, and you know what? My emails would still be intact. I don't know what excuse they came up with for Lois Lerner, that she somehow managed to lose them or that her computer crashed, but the idea that she lost 2 years' worth of emails that could implicate her and the federal agency, and, obviously I think one of the worst corruption scandals that administration has had, it is beyond a farce.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, okay, you lose emails, and all of them happen to be pertaining to a certain area that is under federal investigation. And I know that in my time in law enforcement, if somebody showed up without evidence and said, "Oh, I lost the evidence, Judge," either evidence tampering or obstruction or, a whole range of things in the real world. But obviously, we don't live in the White House, and administration doesn't live in the real world. I will say this. I do think that, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I thought the funniest one was the Stockman and the metadata. I thought that was pretty sneaky and pretty ingenious, but we can't really go from there. But to say that she lost all those emails that go through a government server, I don't think so. That's bullcrap.
Well, what's funny about that is you have to comment on this. I've tried to get comment on it. In any federal organization, if you do actually have a crash like that, you immediately have the IT department on you, and they leave a paper trail, with documents thick enough to choke a donkey. There is so much paperwork on feds and IT trying to get stuff to work, and nobody can actually point to any sort of IT records of them attempting to fix Lois Lerner's computer. But what I think is interesting about this is that the lie, maybe not a lie, the claim, let's do that, the claim that her emails are irretrievably gone, and it's 2 years down the drain, and sorry, we just can't do it. It's become so brazen and so bold at this point. Do either of you see Congress or House congressional investigators appointing a special prosecutor? Because this is, to me, this seems like this has just gotten out of hand.
Yeah, also, another thing, too, are we supposed to think, did they just notice this, or is it they just decided to release this news now? Because these emails are prior to 2011, right?
That's actually another great point, is that they requested these documents 8 months ago and then just announced it last Friday. Oh, by the way, remember those things you wanted almost a year ago? We can't get them.
But they happen to be the same lost emails that the Democrat from Maryland, is he from Maryland? Yeah, Maryland Cummings. Was he involved in those emails too? So, wasn't he in a bunch of the emails from Lerner?
Well, that was a story that quickly got thrown under the rug. But yeah, there were emails between him and Lerner, and for some reason that story was conveniently ignored by the mainstream media. Shocking, I know. But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it's a weird situation, and I think that, the funny thing is just like all the liberals, and you see the liberal responses like Media Matters, they've either they've ignored it completely, or they've said like, well, you're no computer expert, like really great comeback. That's a good one. You're no computer expert. Well, I don't think the kids at Media Matters are hired for their great comebacks, but they do their best.
Yeah, that's true.
And Media Matters is that's the thing that's astonished me since I moved into this city. The thing that it continues to surprise me about the left in general is the Free Beacon is kind of like a wink nod sort of. This is just a quick aside, but like Media Matters and those people, they are so easy to troll because they don't get satire. Like it's really not even like they're like, oh, they don't think it's funny. It's like they don't even understand that they're actually reading something that's humorous or a joke. And
that's good that you say
they're
that,
delightfully easy to troll. It's great.
It's good that you say
that was the funniest thing about that was the funniest thing about Stiles, Andrew Stiles at the Free Beacon, for those listening, did a post joking about Hillary needing a walker. It was complete satire. It was a joke, and you can even see the satire tag at the bottom of the page. And you see Media Matters and these daffy old fools out at Washington Post. Everyone fell for it. It's amazing.
Was it Ruth Marcus?
I was actually Media Matters. I kind of expected at this point. I had a headline last fall. Remember when that woman fainted while the president was giving his speech about Obamacare, and he kind of caught her?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought it'd be funny. Like we thought it'd be funny. The Free Beacon, we'd make the headline. President's speech about Obamacare nearly kills an innocent woman. And we sort of made that the headline. Obviously, we're just messing around. And Media Matters was like, you will not believe this ridiculous headline from the Free Beacon. And I was like, are these people like mentally challenged? I really, what it came down to, I was like, are you kidding me? And then, this thing with Stiles is even better. That woman in the Washington Post, Ruth Marcus, I think it was. I was like, lady, I expect it from those guys, I guess, but you're like a columnist with like a mainstream paper. Are you really that thick? It was unreal.
Well,
and that's the funny thing is that there is no excuse for it because the satire tag is right there.
Even if the satire tag wasn't there, if you didn't understand that was supposed to be a joke, I feel bad. But you're right. There was. We tagged these things just to make things real easy for folks, and I don't know.
Wow. There are some. See, but the funny thing is, and I hate to say it, but you and I think, have been in this business long enough to know there are some real psycho lunatics on the far right fringes, and I wouldn't be surprised to see stuff like that from them. However,
yeah, that's fair. I mean, I know what you mean, but I guess, sometimes, you make a good point. And, like, a lot of times I kind of, I'm at the Free Beacon. Like, obviously we're all around each other. We're all in on the joke and whatnot. But it still kind of surprises me just trying to read that from even, like, an objective standpoint, how anyone could really, quote, fall for that.
Well,
but, there are some folks, I'm sure, who really do think Hillary Clinton needs a walker. And, that, the president was born in Kenya and some other crazy things. But,
well, the funny thing is you make a lot of videos that are funny and we do a lot of satire. But I had a conversation the other day with somebody, and I think it was Bruce Carroll, and we were talking about how it's really amusing because liberals for the longest time would say, like, conservatives are sensitive. They're always, they let things bother them. They can't take a joke, blah, blah, blah. But recently, I guess since I've been on Twitter the last 2.5 years or so, I've noticed that conservatives are a lot more sarcastic and snarky and going after liberals, and they can't stand it. They can dish it out, but as soon as you make fun of people, they lose their minds. Their heads explode. Make fun of Hillary's age, and they'll flip out. But if it's okay when they made fun of McCain's age, and the other thing is, I never got offended when they made fun of McCain's age. I never get offended by anything they say.
McCain's old as shit.
Yeah, and it's because if it's funny, it's funny. I make fun of politicians.
He is old and Hillary's old.
Yeah, and I make fun of politicians. It doesn't matter what
that's
side
really the funny thing about it. The only reason this has any traction is because some of us just kind of joked around about Hillary's age, and they reacted so poorly. That's why we're doing, because now it's funny, just to get the reaction. Well,
I was going to ask you, David, real quick, since we're on this Hillary subject. She's had, and I think I said it last night, that y'all at the Free Beacon are putting her through hell. I'll tell you that. And I don't know, maybe I don't see how this, this first 2 months is kind of like a slow rollout. Forgive me for the pun. The slow rollout of Hillary's kind of campaign, kind of feeling the waters. It's been a disaster. How do you think that this is coming across, and what do you think watching her now, her chances of her even going for the nomination in 2016?
You mean like how they're coming across to, I think, to like mainstream Americans, outside of D.C. and whatnot?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this, like I try to really assess what the mainstream coverage is, because like when I do a clip or anything like that, almost I try really hard to never use anything from Fox. I try to do everything I can to use like CNN, MSNBC, and like the networks, because they're all liberal. And so if they're obviously crapping on a Democrat, that obviously then lends a lot of credence to what I'm trying to do. And they've been pretty tough on her, in terms of their standards. So I think it has come off poorly. I think you've got the folks whose job is literally to marginalize every single criticism that happens of HRC or Barack Obama, but every single thing is not a big deal. Obviously, like today, everyone was trying to downplay Alana Goodman's story about that tape of Hillary Clinton talking about defending the child rapist, which was a very interesting scoop by her. And of course, no, that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. I'm like, let's see, if Sarah Palin had chuckled about getting a child rapist off of, or getting him acquitted, I'm pretty sure that Jezebel would have, exploded. So let's just be real here. So I think it's come off poorly. I don't think it's like ruined her or anything like that. I still think for where she is, she's sitting pretty strong. So I'd say it hurt, but a couple of gaffes here and there, but talking about her houses and whatnot. Like, it was funny, it was silly, and it shows that I think she's really stiff and kind of awkward. I don't think she's a particularly rousing figure on the campaign trail. I think she comes off as kind of phony. But I don't think that I don't think that it really this is trying to stop her from running. I would bet the farm that she's still going to run for president.
Yeah, I see her still making a bid for it. Especially yesterday, the Wall Street Journal came out with a poll showing, take it with a grain of salt, of course, that former President Bill Clinton is by far and away the most popular living president. Period. He took in 42% approval rating in this poll, and President Barack Obama only had 18%. That kind of shows you the deficit between the two. But it's that kind of popularity that she can coast her way right in on his coattails, because if nothing else, in this Obama economy with lousy jobs, terrible GDP growth, and all that stuff, Clinton, for all of his faults, is still a reminder of better times when money was better and the jobs were more plentiful. And if you can get that association with Hillary, I think she actually has a pretty easy time getting to the White House.
But what has she done in her career?
She has done literally nothing. She's done literally nothing.
She got married.
Yeah. She married a guy.
She's a very smart lady who's had a bunch of important jobs, but as senator, she didn't sponsor any meaningful legislation. As Secretary of State, I mean, her big thing was the Russia reset. We saw how that went. We know, of course, we've gone this whole time without talking about Benghazi, which I know has been talked about to death, but it is still a hit against her. No, she doesn't have anything really substantive to talk about. So, Yeah, I mean, it obviously helps being married to Bill, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I know it's probably putting too much faith in Republicans to have a good campaign strategy, but I think if you can pin her as being a part of the Obama team, and by the time we get to 2016 and, say the Republicans take back the Congress and just make his last 2 years just an utter nightmare. Like, I mean, we remember Bush in 07 and 08. I mean, he was just absolutely crippled as a president, and Obama just coasted in off his 23% approval ratings. Obama will never get that low. But I think you just have to try as hard as you can to tie her to him. I mean, Bill, honestly, I would feel like it'd almost be kind of anti-feminist I can't believe I'm saying this, but if Hillary's got to do her thing base her campaign on who she's married to, boy, that's not very inspiring as the first woman candidate, is it?
Yeah, and
no, but how many people would actually walk away from that, though? That's the thing. People love Bill Clinton.
Yeah, but the thing is if you look at it, okay, I was talking about this earlier, if you look at it...
They love him, they love her.
Oh, yeah, true. They're running the campaign 2016. Okay, let's just pretend for now Rubio's the candidate. Okay, your first debate, and you stick Hillary Clinton standing up there beside Rubio, and you have their families together. The optics alone says, Rubio, I think we're going to go with this guy, the guy who looks young. You know what I'm saying? She just looks tired. Maybe it's just me. She just looks tired.
Yes, and let me also clarify. She's not totally unaccomplished. I mean, she was a lawyer. She was an aide to Nixon. She has kind of worked her way up, but I'm saying as far as accomplishments, extraordinary accomplishments that would give person standing to try to claim to get into the White House to actually have that executive privilege, she doesn't actually have anything under, again, like Dave was saying, no actual accomplishments in the Senate and very, very little to speak of as the Secretary of State. But
I'm glad you said that because I never want to be that guy that says, "Oh my God, Hillary's like the worst," and she's not like she's not like an idiot or anything like that, and she's like she is in the you don't get to where she is without being like a talented and smart person. But like you said, yeah, I mean you pretty much put it perfectly. Like in terms of like the substantive achievements that you'd want of someone who's going to have their finger on the button and be in the Oval Office, no, she just doesn't. She doesn't meet the standard. And the media is, they're so eager to be part of the next, I call it the next big thing, and the next big thing is the first woman president. And they're just going to do everything they can to pump her up, I don't know how many more videos I have to watch of these awkward ask Hillary fans what her accomplishments are, and they all just stand around blinking, and they mutter something about, first woman president, It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. She's going to be great because she's the first woman president, because she won. It's like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
I understand exactly. And on that note, let me ask you what we like to ask a lot of our guests, a little bit of crystal ball here, not the obnoxious MSNBC host, the actual gypsy tool. Going into 2016, going back to what you're talking about, the GOP launching some sort of substantive campaign against a possible Hillary candidate. Who do you see in 2016? Who's the candidate do you want to see up front? Who do you think can't be beat if the GOP puts him out front?
Who do I think would be the strongest? Just to make sure I heard the strongest Republican candidate to beat her, or who would I like to see run? That's two different questions.
Why not both? Answer, yeah, both. Who do you think has the best chance of beating her, and who would you like to see run?
I'd say who would I like to see run? I really like Marco Rubio. I would actually I think he's a terrific candidate, and I think that he's got great foreign policy chops. I think that he, obviously him being Hispanic is a real strong suit. He's got a great backstory. He's well-spoken, and those are all like peripheral things. I just like his policy positions. That's really the main thing. I think it'll be tough for him. In terms of who I think has the best chance, I mean, that's really tough because, I do not buy Jeb Bush being a good candidate. I think anyone named Bush is poison. Chris Christie, such a squish. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, that's tough. I might just go with Rubio. I was going to say someone different, but I would actually say Marco Rubio for both.
Well, I think that's where I'm going, kind of leaning towards. Dave, we got to wrap it up. So we appreciate you coming on. Can you let everybody know where they can read your stuff, watch your videos, and reach you on Twitter?
You can go to freebeacon.com. I'm at Twitter, David Rutz, DAVID RUTZ, Z as in zebra. And everything's on the Free Beacon, and the Twitter handle is also Free Beacon. And yeah, that's where I live. It's good to finally get to talk to you guys in person. I enjoy interacting with you guys on Twitter, and I appreciate you having me on. I hope that I didn't ramble too much. I haven't done a political interview ever.
That's all we do is ramble.
Thanks so much for coming on, dude.
Yeah, man.
No problem, guys. Have a good night, and take care.
All right, thanks.
You too, man.
We're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're just going to make fools of ourselves, and we'll open the lines. So I think John is going to tweet out at the out of the 405 at the 405 Radio Twitter account. He's going to tweet out the phone number you can call us. So if you want to call in and ask us questions, or you want to call in and make fun of us, just go ahead. So we'll see you on the other side of the break.
You're on the 405. Thank you for shopping Amazon.com. When you do, that makes you a sponsor of the 405 Media. Click on the Amazon banner on top of our homepage. Then shop. Simple. It costs you nothing. When you think Amazon, click one more time on the 405media.com, then on the Amazon banner. Thank you. Off the Grid.
And he's also the only person I've ever seen that could write, "My dog just rolled over" on Facebook and get like 62 likes.
I'm also, just a correction, I'm the best looking person in social media, too.
Off the Grid with Matt Hockman and Becket Adams.
You have men in the United States Army running for cover and hoping the police show up.
You know, the base is a soft target that's filled with brave Americans, but they got their hands tied.
I'm sure the jihadists completely consider it a soft target. It's like a shopping mall, or like you said, a school. It's probably worse than a shopping mall, because at least you're in Arizona, you're allowed to carry.
In several of these shootings, Jared Lautner in Arizona, the Sandy Hook shooting, a number of these shootings always involve somebody who was desperately unhealthy in the head, but for some reason the argument always turns into, get away from my gun. What can we do to maybe help people like this?
New day, same time. Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Only on the 405media.com. You're on the 405.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
The Friddle Show.
Gay marriage is not even legal in Arizona, so how is this cake discussion even relevant?
The Friddle Show with Crystal Heath.
I mean, this bill, I read it today. You can read it. It's 2 pages long.
The Friddle Show, live Tuesday and Wednesday nights, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
It's become acceptable to sleep around. Did you know that only 3% of Americans abstain from sex until they're married?
The Friddle Show, family-friendly, politically incorrect news commentary from a young Christian conservative perspective.
And if my disagreeing with a lifestyle due to my religious beliefs is now the same as hatred, then I apparently hate 97% of Americans.
Live original talk only on the 405media.com.
The president, he wasn't too far off base when he said that we're no longer a Christian nation, because quite frankly, we're not. The general populace does not have a biblical worldview.
You're on the 405. Voces Latinas.
Rubio has 100% rating from AFP. He has like a 97% rating from Heritage. He votes wildly conservative, more conservative than 98% of senators on 98% of the issues. Why fire Rubio over one issue?
Voces Latinas, live only on the 405media.com.
We don't want to fire Rubio over one issue.
We had 40 Hispanics walking around, and all they see, is pink slip Rubio, pink slip Rubio. Pink slip to me is fire.
Voces Latinas, Mondays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, only on the 405media.com.
But is it strategically smart to publicly heckle and call him a traitor? Rubio was lambasted publicly by Limbaugh. Michelle Malkin screams shamnesty like it's her job. I mean, shamnesty, shamnesty. Air your grievances with Rubio all you want, but I can't help it when I work with the Latino youth community trying to make them conservative, bring them to the conservative movement, and they're all like, well, Rubio's the only one that cares about us, and they hate him. They yell shamnesty at him.
You're on the 405.
We are a bold and active voice for the unborn. We are Audio Girl Ministries, saving the lives of babies by helping moms in crisis pregnancies get past the crisis. How? Free ultrasound imaging so the woman can see the life she's carrying, and by supplying her with essential baby items, diapers, clothes, food, crib, car seat, all given with a loving and caring heart. Want to help? Log on to AudioGirlMinistries.com and make a tax-deductible donation. AudioGirlMinistries.com. Thanks.
This is Katie Pavlich. You're listening to the 405 Radio.
Welcome back to Off the Grid with Becket Adams and Matt Hockman, and we've decided to talk in our NPR voices and talk very slowly and lull you to sleep. So Beckett's going to go ahead and start off and talk about the Hillary Clinton tapes. Go ahead, Becket.
Well, see, now it's not funny because we're going to talk about tapes involving child rape.
Yeah, that's true.
Now it's all awkward for everyone. You see what
it
you
is.
Did?
I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry.
But
anyways, on that note,
All right, so the Hillary tapes, obviously this is something that has been reported before. However, and to the Beacon's great benefit, they got their hands on the audio, which nobody else had. So while you're seeing sites like Jezebel, which isn't, of course, a news site, it's an advocacy site written by a bunch of screaming harpies, you see them all tisking this story. Oh, it's no big deal. Right wing's having a big field day with this. A lot of people at Politico tried to get in front of the story as well last night, including one of the guys who covered it in 2008, who apparently covered it halfway decently, but his editor more or less killed it. Anyhow, the story is real, and it is absolutely, I think, a legit fair game story, because as I wrote this morning in an article, which I don't know if anyone actually read the damn thing, we learned in 2012 that if nothing else, everything is fair game when it comes to politicians who may or may not be running for the Oval Office. It could be Mitt Romney cutting someone's hair when he was 16. It could be a rock that had a racial slur on it on a piece of property that Rick Perry didn't even own. It could be Seamus the dog on Mitt Romney's car. Hey, look, those were all stories that they used and they ran, and they got a lot of media coverage. So I don't think that anyone's acting out of line talking about Hillary defending an alleged child rapist, and in doing so, savaging the character of a 12-year-old girl. I think that's totally legitimate. I think it's great that the Beacon brought it up. I think it's even better they got their hands on original audio. So do you see this actually taking off? I mean, I covered it in my capacity. They covered it. A lot of people were kind of talking about it, but, and I made this prediction this morning, I said there are three different ways that the media handles this. They either cover it, maybe sparingly, probably won't be that robust, but it gets a little coverage. They either only cover it to defend Hillary, to explain she was just doing her job as a defender, or they totally ignore it. From what I'm seeing so far, I think number three might be happening. I think it is being ignored. You actually own a TV, and I don't. I only get TV in my house.
I don't have cable, though. I don't have cable. I don't have
we're all the better for it. But what's your consensus? Are you seeing a lot of people talking about it?
I think I see a lot of us like in.
Wait, hold on. Is that you? Is that you hitting the button?
No.
That's you. No, that is you.
That's not me.
Somebody's doing it. I don't find them. You're the only one. Anyhow, what were you saying?
Hitting the button.
Somebody's hitting the dial pad.
Not me. You're losing your mind, man. Are you okay?
I am. No, start this with me.
Have you had any alcohol tonight?
I have not. I haven't had alcohol in a long time.
See, that might be the problem.
Anyhow, continue your thoughts.
Anyways, I don't see it going past what, it's not going to hit mainstream. I mean, it's going to be, if it would hit mainstream, it would probably already been out there a little bit more than it was. But I think it's going to be big between, like, in the conservative circles. Even though it's not, like you said, it's not the issue that she defended, a child rapist. Okay, alleged child rape. Anytime you're in anything, any situation, law, anything like that, you're going to have questionable, acquaintances, if you will. But the real problem is what she did and how her thought process and how she attacked the girl. That's the serious situation. And I wish people would take it seriously, but it's not. I don't think it goes very far. I mean, but then again, Free Beacon's got millions of these tapes. I just don't. I may be wrong. I don't see it coming up 2016. I mean, maybe like a little hit piece here and there may come up. Somebody says something on the campaign trail or whatever if she runs. But I think you're going to start to see, here's the thing, it's one trickle out of the dam, and there's just going to be millions of more trickles. I think that you're going to see tons of more stories that are hits on her that may be bigger, but when they all come together, it's going to be huge. And I think that she's got a long history in public life, so there's going to be lots of negative stories about her.
And that's what I don't understand. I mean, obviously, it'll be the death of the story if it does get relegated to only conservative circles, because then it'll be easily written off as being just a right-wing conspiracy. However, this is documented. This is in the woman's own words, and like you're saying, it's not wrong that everyone in America deserves and is entitled to a fair trial. That's our right. But the way she went about it, going after a 12-year-old and discrediting the character of a 12-year-old and writing her off as a crazy person, how does that not stick? The fact that I even know Mitt Romney's dog's name is ridiculous. How do I know that? And that sticks. and that's a major story, but something like this doesn't stick. And we can't say liberal media bias, because, of course there's liberal media bias, but it's not a vacuum anymore. There's online journalism, there's conservative print journalism, there's Fox News, there's talk radio, there's the Internet. Why don't these things catch on? What is being done wrong?
I don't think there's anything being done wrong. I just think that I think we control a little bit more, and this has changed a lot even since 2012. I think conservatives control the social media aspect a little bit better than liberals do, but liberals still have a pretty strong stranglehold on TV, and most people get their news from television when they get home and they flip on a channel, MSNBC, and they're not going to cover it, or they cover the three big networks and they're not going to cover it because they don't, because they'll rather cover something that, whatever fits their agenda. But I think there's one aspect that helps conservatives is the fact that you've seen the rise of groups like pages like Free Beacon, or the Federalist. You've seen other blogs and newspapers and media groups pop up within the last couple years that are conservative, and they're starting to have a pretty strong influence. And that'll probably help out in 2016 because it's only going to get bigger. And I think that we didn't have control of the social media platform as well. In 2008, we didn't have it at all, really. In 2012, it was so-so. But I think that every year we grow stronger, and it's evidence you could see. I mean, there is liberal Twitter, I guess. I see liberal Twitter a lot, but it's not, you know what I'm saying? They don't have as much influence.
You're talking about the Unite Blue crowd?
Yeah, they're all idiots. Go through the Unite Blue hashtag, and it's nothing but terrible memes. I go through it, and there's just terrible memes with bad pictures and just stupid crap over and over again, and I never see anything. I'm sure there's stupid memes on our side, obviously, but I think that you're seeing a shift because conservatives controlled the radio waves, and now I think that you saw a shift that we basically control social media, and if we don't control social media, there's a strong enough influence by the people that are in social media that affect the way things come out. And, I mean, we'll see how it happens in 2016, but I think we're seeing a tide turn. It's starting to change a little bit.
Yeah, but then we still have the question, though, why is the tide only now turning? The conservatives have been on the Internet for
because
years.
We sucked at it.
Do you think we're much better now?
Yeah, I think we're a lot better. I think that for the longest time it's just a bunch of dorks. I mean, to be honest with you,
But then we go back to the beginning of this conversation. So we have a story about a woman attacking a 12-year-old rape victim, and that's not a story. I think that shows a failing on our part. Maybe we're not very good at this still.
We're good at it because it's out there on the Internet and people are finding out about it, but we haven't figured out a way to branch out.
Yeah, 15 years ago, ain't nobody going to know about that story.
Yeah, and we've got to figure out a way to branch, whether that's, with Blaze getting a television network or other stations, other conservative news, Fox. I don't watch the news, really. When I watch the news, I watch MSNBC because it is funny. But, once we start branching out and putting more, but if you've noticed, we've started to put more, we've gotten rid of the Dick Morrises and the Karl Roves. They're not as influential as, say, some of the younger people, like Charles Cook goes on television all the time. We have a lot better representation of we put out politicians. Our politicians are dorks across the board, right, left. They're all geeks because they're insulated from the world. They don't know what's going on, and they just go by whatever their staff says. But you look at the pundits. For a long time, our pundits were dorks. They were old. They were just out of touch. But we're starting to put forth more younger guys who know how to get the message across.
Well,
younger girls too. Sorry, younger girls.
I'm trying to think. We're seeing a lot of the younger women there, but when you talk about some of the older pundits, I don't know. But some of the older pundits carried with them that sort of respect that comes with age. You have guys like Krauthammer, Wayne F. Buckley. I don't think we would do ourselves a favor by throwing those guys out.
No, don't throw them out. Don't throw them out.
Replace them with younger ambush journalists and whatever the young crowd does. Whatever the kids
don't
do
throw
nowadays.
them out. Have them help them. You know what I'm saying? We'll always have the Krauthammers, and they'll always have the Paul Krugman. But
oh God!
Yeah, I know. I won't even start. I know how you feel.
I feel about it.
But it's we can keep those guys on, but we can also I started to see we've brought a lot of younger guys through and the younger people in media, and I think it's good.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I mean, it is heartening knowing that 15 years ago, Alon Goodman's story on the Hillary tapes, that story does not get written. There's no way The AP runs that CBS every day. None of them would touch it. It would go right away. So
do you think they would have touched the Romney with the haircut thing?
Of course. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You think?
Oh, yeah. I absolutely think ABC. Look, what's his name? Was it Gephardt or Kemp? The potato misspelling. What the hell? What the hell was that guy? Quayle.
Oh.
That's still a story. Or Macaca, George Allen, remember? That's still a major story. Such nonsense gaps and BS, and that was well before the dawn of Twitter and all this garbage that we're playing around with. But I think it's interesting that you now have it's two sides. You have the gap machine. You have what Hillary's doing right now, which really is really rocky. I mean, she is rusty, man. It's kind of embarrassing considering that all of these are really friendly rollout interviews. Like, she's not going before. I'm trying to think who used to actually be really tough.
It's like she didn't take her Metamucil.
But I don't know. Actually, this is really depressing because I'm really trying very hard right now to think of a tough interviewer, someone who's really tough but fair.
You mean like I'd say Brett Baer probably, or Jake.
Yeah,
Tapper.
Brett Baer would be good. Maybe Jake Tapper.
Yeah, Tapper would be good.
Yeah,
even Anderson Cooper.
Oh, he's actually okay, but she will not. None of those guys will be involved in her book tour.
Oh no,
she's only doing friendly rollout interviews, and she's watching all of them. It's like you're getting low hanging curveballs, and you can't even connect with it. What are you doing wrong, man?
Well, sometimes it's really hard for older people to get their stuff together. I mean, it's really, they're not as quick as they used to be. Back in her day, when she was our age, it was a lot easier. But that was like 70 years. And they didn't even have television interviews back then. And as Joe Biden says, back then, Franklin Delano Roosevelt used to do fireside chats on television all the time.
Oh, gosh, he did say that, didn't he?
That's our vice president, man.
It's all a scam. I will go to my grave convinced of this. He's actually clever as hell and sharp as a razor, and this is all an act that it's not even an act. I don't even think he created it. I think it grew up around him. People just thought he was silly. And he lets people think that because he is a mean dude. Justice Bork. You remember the Bork hearings? You know who actually masterminded that? That was him. He's a ruthless. He is.
I want to hang out with him, to be honest with you. I'd like to hang out with him.
Oh, I bet he's fun as hell to drink with. But he is a ruthless, vicious politician. You do not get to be vice president of the United States by being a doddering idiot. Although, I'll stop myself. Man, I got really close to making fun of a former failed vice president.
Well, he's kind of like, he's the northern goofy version of Lyndon Johnson. He was very cutthroat, but he's like, behind the scenes, from everything anybody's told me about Biden, is behind the scenes, he's really, really like strict, serious, but in front of the cameras, it's like you said, it's almost a show. It's a front. Like, what will Joe say next?
And it works to his benefit because everyone thinks he's an idiot, which is great because when he walks into a room to get stuff done, pardon me. When he walks into a room to get stuff done, everybody underestimates him, and then he walks in there and basically he draws blood from everyone, gets what he needs, and walks right out, and nobody even realizes what happened before he's even 10 feet away. Actually, you can see that through the entire Obama presidency. Every time there's been any sort of deal struck between Republican lawmakers and Democratic lawmakers, it always took Biden is always the guy who disappears into a room with them, comes out, and then there's a deal. I don't know what he does back there, who he threatens, how he gets it done, but he gets it.
Barack sucks at that stuff. Obama's terrible at anything when it comes to he's good at
we can agree on that. My point is that Biden is actually a far more clever and efficient politician than people give him credit for, and he likes the fact that people think he's stupid, which he's not. I think he's very capable, and actually we should probably fear him a little bit, especially put everything in perspective. What he did to Justice Bork was unprecedented. It was ugly, it was mean, and it was ruthlessly efficient. It worked. That was Biden. Nobody seems to remember that. They just think of him as a goofy old man who gets lampooned on the Onion.
Yeah, and I don't see, to be honest, I don't see him winning any nominations for president. I don't see that. But, and he could be. I mean, I just don't see him running a campaign. A, he's an older guy. B, he just doesn't. It's not his style to run like that type of campaign. He's kind of like the sidekick who gets things done. He just whatever. But it's just interesting. I was looking at the Democratic field, and they are just a mess. And everybody, they always, Media Matters and all of them think progress. They want to make you think that Republicans are a mess or at civil war. But to be honest with you, it's just to cover up the fact that they are in disarray, and they've got, if Hillary doesn't run, they have nobody. Who are they going to run? The boring guy from Maryland?
No, they got the queen of populism. They got Elizabeth Warren.
Oh, she's not even. She barely beat Scott Brown in Massachusetts, and Scott Brown.
Well,
I mean,
but that's like beating a child in a foot race. So he wasn't much of a candidate to speak of.
Yeah, and I guess Elizabeth Warren would be some, but I don't see her.
I don't know, man. I think that they've been feeling out the territory for her. She's been going out there giving speeches, launching books, trying to feel. And she is the populist candidate. She will say all the feel good fuzzies that it'll take.
See, that's exactly why I pick Rubio. Because he's, I mean, you think about it, every speech of people, hit him on immigration, get over it. He tried something, they changed the bill on him, and he backed out of it. Lose your minds over something else. I mean, deal with it, okay? The guy tried something. At least he stepped out there. Stop vilifying him.
Yeah, no, that's actually, you raised that point. That's a great point. I don't know what it is, but the immigration debate has devolved to such a point that we can't really even have it. I got into these bizarre arguments over the weekend where all I did was advocate, hey, there are sick children who may be dying on our border who are in cages. We should probably attend to them immediately with medical attention. And just the outrage it prompted, you must be a future slaveholder. You must be a Democrat. It's
ridiculous. He's trying something. At least he's putting something on them. And here's the thing, Rubio, okay, I may be called a rhino, whatever, bullcrap. A couple years ago, this guy was the conservative savior. Let's just be real for a second here. I have never listened to a Rubio speech and not walked away saying, man, that guy is awesome. I mean, he tells a story. He's got that Reagan touch where he makes you feel better about everything. And he's a smooth talker. He's good. He's not an old dork. He's hip on what's going on with us. He knows how to connect. I see it. I find it very hard to believe that you put him on stage with any of these old white people that the Democrats have, and I don't see him losing. That's just my opinion.
And I think that's actually pretty optimistic along with you, because unlike a lot of people like Hillary Clinton or even the president, Rubio's actually worked his way up. He has held jobs where he has a record of success. He has stuff to show for his time being in the state legislature in Florida. He actually authored stuff. He passed stuff. He lost on some things. He's been attached to winning things. He's been attached to losing things. And like you were saying, his family story, extraordinarily compelling, and as far as we know, true. But,
and he's got a really good-looking family.
Yeah, you get all the optics there. But like I was saying, like Hillary or Elizabeth Warren, it's like, okay, you were kind of born into a middle-class family, and you've kind of coasted through academia your entire life. And your husband's famous, or in Warren's case, you said you were an Indian. I mean, these are not really compelling stories. Whereas Rubio, we fled communism. My father was a bartender, and I put myself through college. I became a senator. That's a good story.
Yeah, and I'm married to a hot Dolphins cheerleader.
I'm not going to comment on that.
She used to be a Dolphins cheerleader. She's from Colombia. Very pretty. They have very good-looking family. Oh, yeah, very good-looking. And that's the thing.
Colombia.
And the thing is, I'll say this, and I know primary season is terrible on Twitter, but I don't care. You talk trash about Rubio, whatever. That's who I'm picking. You keep, he's immigrant. Get over it, man. He's probably the best chance. Everybody says Rand Paul, but Rand Paul is good, and I like Rand Paul, but I just don't see him pulling the populace the way that Rubio
Rand Paul has one major handicap that'll keep him on the defense his entire campaign. He will be explaining things his father said the entire time he's running. That's simple as it'll happen. You know it, I know it. Whether or not it's just or right, that's a different argument, but it will happen. He will
and as much as I like Ted Cruz is one of those guys that he's, you either love him or you hate him. The left absolutely hates him, and the right loves him because the left hates him. And I don't see him as, I may be wrong, but I just don't see him as a president because he's kind of a firebrand. You got to have somebody who comes in who can walk into, because Ted Cruz walks into a room full of liberals and they'll just immediately turn off. And that's just the same way with Barack Obama walks into a room full of conservatives, they'll immediately turn off. If Rubio or even Rand Paul or Scott Walker walks into a room full of liberals, they'll listen to him for a little bit to see where they're going. And that's just the way I just, you know, and I'd love to be like, I just want a strict conservative, but I'm also a little realistic too. I want to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think we keep learning this, is that the GOP it keeps nominating the moderate who doesn't really have a shot, because the people that are put up against the moderate, this is how it works. Let me tell you how the world works, Matt. But I don't know what that was. Oh, the problem is that you have the people on the far right, they try to nominate their candidates who are so far right that the moderate to most people, the moderate who doesn't actually have a very good shot, guys like McCain, seems like that's the only thing we got. I mean, I'm not much of a Romney apologist or anything, but compared to what else, that was.
It was one of the.
Let's do a little experiment. Who else in that field do you think could have actually won in 2012?
Nobody.
Michelle Bachmann, Don Huntsman, Rick Santorum.
If Rick Perry hadn't have gone crazy on whatever happened to him, he was looking.
He may have actually had a shot if he didn't come off looking like a. I mean,
he looked. Yeah, and that's the thing. He's a smart guy. He's a good politician. I mean, and he fires up the base, but he hurt himself. And, you know, the guy that I actually voted for in the primary is Newt Gingrich, because I actually, you know, my thing about Newt is he's a history nerd, and he's smart. He's like a computer. The guy knows everything about everything. I've never seen somebody. I mean, you could talk to the guy about astrophysics and he'll go into like an hour-long spiel about it. You're like, how do you know this stuff? And that was the one appeal that I had, is he also ran kind of a nice guy campaign for a long time until Romney was killing him.
Yeah, I think Gingrich had some issues of his own. He wasn't exactly a strong candidate. I might agree with you, though, in that entire field, he was probably the strongest next to Romney.
Looks like we got to wrap up, too.
All right, man.
So this is our first time on Mondays. I kind of like it. I think it's good that we're here. So make sure you tune in again next Monday. Becket Adams, where can they reach you at?
Always reach me at Becket Adams on Twitter or anytime at the Washington Examiner, specifically Beltway Confidential.
Nice. That's nice. And I'm Matt Hockman, and you know where to reach me at, because otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this podcast, more than likely. Anyways, coming up next is Voices Latinas, and I think those are some friends of ours. I think that's Sam's show. So he'll be talking about Samnesty. So y'all have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Johnny.
I was scared of dentists and the dark. I was scared of pretty girls and starting conversations. All my friends are turning green. Yeah, the magician's assistant in their dream. And they come unstuck. Lady, running down to the riptide, taken away to the dark side. I wanna be your left-hand man. I love you when you're singing that song, and I got a lump in my throat 'cause you're gonna sing the words wrong. Is this movie that I think you like? This guy decides to quit his job.